Let's take a look at these pictures from the Japanese public broadcaster NHK. It shows the scale of destruction in Minamisariku, where media reports say half the population is unaccounted for.
This is the hospital building. This is a 5-storied building, but the water came in up to the 4th floor. And as of shortly before 300 patients were waiting to be evacuated. And this is Minamisariku town before the earthquake hit. The yellow circle is where the hospital is, and right above that there is a city office. And according to the homepage, this building is 2-storied building, but after the earthquake, as you can see, you cannot see any building which the city office used to stand. And according to the city office, there has been no contact whatsoever with the city office.
When you see pictures like that, you realise that clearly the death toll in Japan is likely to rise. Well, my colleague Maxime Milwini earlier spoke to our correspondent Damien Grammaticus, who's in Sendai, close to the epicentre of the quake.
Well, I've just got here not too long ago, and we've made our way down to near the seafront where the tsunami swept in, and it's quite astonishing, the devastation here. As we drove down, we saw shipping containers that had been swept hundreds of metres inland, smashed against buildings. There's trees uprooted, debris everywhere, and dozens and dozens, hundreds of cars that have just been tumbled over, smashed and crushed. Also articulated lorries picked up, dumped in a ditch, one next to me, one in front of me, just down the road here has had the front smashed in too. And way down in the distance, well, there are fires burning nearer to the seafront, a flare just going off now down there.
And Damien, what of people? Have you seen any survivors, people trying to get away from the area?
Well, in this area there are people who are sheltering in their houses. They are sitting there by candlelight. In the city, the actual sort of city centre of Sendai, further back, that has been pretty much unscathed. But back there, the problem you find as we came in, there's little electricity, there's almost no water, there's no gas, so the city is almost dark, there's just light in places, and people are finding, I think, things very, very difficult. On the way here too, many shops closed, supermarkets closed, petrol stations closed. And in this area where I am, they say many people died from the tsunami, and there are many who are still looking for those family members they've lost.
Damien Grammaticus.
Fears are growing in Japan for the thousands still missing following yesterday's devastating earthquake. At least 1,700 people are now believed to have been killed, but it's feared that figure will rise significantly, with reports of coastal towns being wiped out by the tsunami which followed. State TV is reporting that up to 10,000 people are feared missing from one small town alone. The BBC's Damien Grammaticus is one of the first broadcast journalists to reach Sendai. From there, he sent this report.
We drove into Sendai in the darkness. Littering the roads are cars, tossed aside like toys. Many streetlights are off, electricity cut, water and gas in short supply. Swept aside by the tsunami, mangled trucks. Trees lining the streets are now covered with flotsam from the wave. Another truck has been dumped on downed power cables. And as you head down towards the sea, the destruction just gets worse and worse. This is the road. As the waves retreated, they dumped vast quantities of debris here. Despite the alerts that sounded, many did not get out in time, and fires burn in the night.
Well, it is all like this around the port. You can see over here the van up there and the truck behind it. There's an articulated lorry behind, a car on top of a car. Down here, well, what we have is a van in there, this car.
But we had to move.
Well, we've just been filming down this area by the port, and we've just been told by our drivers that we've got to move out. The sirens have gone off again, this hooting sound, and they say that is another alert, another warning. It's just a sign of how much everyone is on edge here, really nervous about another tsunami.
And this is why. Up the coast was the town of Minamisariku, a solid, sizable place, home to 17,500 people. This is how it looks now. It's as if Minamisanriku has been wiped from the face of the earth. The only building left standing is the hospital. Some reports say 10,000 may be missing here. And when you see the destructive power unleashed by the undersea earthquake, you can understand why. This is new footage just released today. It's of the moment the tsunami hit Kensanuma. Another town on the same stretch of coastline. Whole buildings swept down the streets by the power of the water. And this is how Sendai looks by daytime. A giant petrochemical complex spews smoke into the sky. Sendai was the closest city to the epicenter of the earthquake, so its citizens had little warning of the wall of water that was coming. This used to be farmland. Whole villages stood here. 200 bodies are said to have been found on the shore, and it's hard to believe there won't be many more. Damien Grammaticus, BBC News, Sendai.
Well, earlier Damien joined us from Sendai. I asked him about the priorities for the officials there.
Well, at the minute, there are many priorities. I mean, the first one is trying to just find all of the people who are missing and who are lost. And just a few minutes ago, we had a man come past here. It's 4 in the morning local time, and he's looking for his son, who was evacuated from his school today and doesn't know where he's gone. So that's a huge job. Also, just clearing up the mess and trying to get in services and restore services is a massive task too. This is a city of 1 million people around here in Sendai. The centre of the city, as far as we can tell, we haven't been able to spend much time there, is pretty much unscathed, but has little power, little water, little gas, little heating, and it is very cold. The area along the coastline is very badly affected, and I have to say too that in the last sort of half hour or so, we've had another tsunami alert, which was issued over the radio, calling on people to get away from the areas by the sea because a 2-meter wave, or a wave up to 2 meters, could be approaching the coastline all along here. So we've moved back from that area down nearer the port to up here to safer ground. But many people, I think, are sitting here tonight in Sendai. They don't have electricity. The mobile phone networks and connections are not great. So it's a pretty difficult time. There's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of fear about more tsunamis.
What are the authorities saying to the people in that area when it comes to the clear-up operation, when it comes to establishing proper connections, civilization being taken back in there?
Well, they're making every effort they can to try and restore things, get things back to normal as quick as they can. But I can tell you what we saw on the way up here as we drove up when we came up this afternoon through towns and villages all the way up, driving up through the center of Japan, was that in those towns and villages, shops were closed, supermarkets were closed, petrol stations were closed, pretty much everything was closed. There were a few little shops open, and in those, the food was going fast. And then the petrol stations that we saw that were open, only a few of them, there were queues for petrol. So people are all the way along sort of the central part of Japan and up towards here, I think, fearful about the earthquake, fearful about more tsunamis, and everyone is very reluctant to go back and open up their businesses, to get back out and doing things until they feel that order is being restored and services are being restored. So they're all waiting, I think, for that.
Is anyone giving the people of Sendai a hopeful timescale here? You know, so many foreign countries are offering help now. Do we know how long it'll be until that help gets there?
We don't know. No, we don't. I mean, we can say that down by the port, there seem to be a lot of trucks there carrying gas trucks and things like that
and on the road up there seemed to be quite a lot of trucks too. So stuff starting to come in here certainly, but it was a pretty slow drive to get here because the highway, the main highway, is closed. So we were on these smaller roads, and there is quite a lot of traffic on those roads. So not an easy task to get everything in here, and a huge job just to sort of clean up and try and open the roads down by the port and all around. But even bigger task is all along the coastline here, where those villages and those towns which were close to the seaside have been really badly affected by when the tsunami swept through. That is where the real problems lie.
Damien Grammaticus in Sendai there. Well, as Japan tried to assess the full extent of the devastation, the nation faced an atomic emergency as cooling systems damaged by the quake failed at 2 nuclear reactors. Rupert Wingfield-Hayes reports now on the day's developments.
The huge white cloud bursting across the horizon is the #1 reactor shed at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, being torn apart by some kind of very large explosion. On top of all its other woes, Japan now has a major nuclear incident on its hands. Just how serious, no one is yet sure. But tonight, a 20-kilometre evacuation zone has been imposed around the plant. Right along the northeastern seaboard of Japan, the extent of the devastation from Friday's earthquake and tsunami is now starting to become clear. Much of the coastline has been turned into a muddy, debris-covered wasteland. Japan prides itself on being better prepared for earthquakes than any other country in the world. But even for Japan, this was on a completely different scale. In fact, no one alive in Japan today has ever felt a tremor as big as Friday's.
At the time it was terrifying. I've never felt a quake that strong. But you know, my Japanese co-workers haven't experienced anything like this either in their lifetime.
But the vast majority of this devastation was not caused by the shaking ground, but by the huge wave that followed in its wake. Today, more and more amateur video has begun to emerge, showing the terrifying power of the water as it surged into towns along the coast, bulldozing everything before it. And it was the water that was the real killer. Rupert Wingfield-Hayes, BBC News, in Tokyo.
Scientists are now monitoring levels of radiation around the Fukushima site and pumping seawater into the plant to cool the nuclear reactor down. Here's our science correspondent, Palab Ghosh.
An explosion followed by a plume of gas. No one knows for sure what went wrong, but the Japanese nuclear agency has said that the highly radioactive reactor core has been contained. If that's the case, then experts say there'll be some radiation in the plume, but it'll be mild, and most of it will be short-lived.
At the moment, there has been a small amount of radioactivity come out with the steam from the broken fuel. As long as they don't lose the core cooling, that will be the case. There will not be a public health hazard.
What seems to have happened is that the cooling system failed. So inside, boiling water circulating in the reactor turned to steam, which increased the pressure inside. It's thought that the casing around the fuel rods might have been damaged, and so allowed radioactive material to come into contact with the water. That turned some of the water into hydrogen, which exploded as the engineers vented the gas to relieve pressure. But crucially, the highly radioactive fuel rods remain intact, and according to Japan's nuclear agency, safely contained.
The absolute striking thing is that in the middle of the largest earthquake Japan has ever seen, with the kind of devastation that we're tragically seeing at the moment, 10 of these 11 plants operated without any significant problems at all. Of the one that did have the problems that we've seen, my instincts are that this will have been managed with a real but minimal amount of radioactivity released, which will soon be gone.
Japanese officials have rated the incident as Category 4, meaning that it's a serious incident but confined locally. That's much less than the Chernobyl disaster, which was rated 7, and less than the 3 Mile Island incident, which was rated 5. There's still work to do at the power plant. The fuel rods are still heating the reactor and building up pressure. Engineers hope to cool it down by flooding it with seawater. Palab Ghosh, BBC News.